Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to episode 26 of Chess Basics, Things Every Chess Player Ought to Know. In this video we're continuing our series on chess tactics by studying the games and the tactics of Paul Morphy, the 19th century American chess player and prodigy. So I gave a little capsule biography of Morphy in episode 25 of Chess Basics, so if you're interested in learning more about him you can go back and review episode 25 to hear about him. We're just going to get into the games here. We're continuing in sort of chronological order, and so these games are all from 1849 when Paul was about 12 years old. The games themselves are a little bit uneven, kind of up and down, but I'm just concentrating on a few points where Paul's tactical brilliance really shows through. And this is such a position. This is a game between Morphy and Eugene Rousseau. Morphy is white, Eugene is black. And you can start by, it's black's turn to move, by the way. So you can start by looking at the general disposition of the pieces. If you see the material is even, and there's three minor pieces, two rooks and a queen for each side. And the pawns are the same. The big difference here is the activity of the pieces. Both kings are in the center, but white has four active pieces. The bishop, the queen, the knight, and the rook are all playing a role in this game. And black's only active piece is the queen. So he played a very logical move, d5, trying to activate another piece and attacking the queen at the same time. And so now it's Paul's turn to move. And now here's the tactic. What does white play here? This is a good one to study. It wins material and it's a few moves deep. So you need to think a few moves ahead to figure this one out. Go ahead and pause the video now if you want to consider this for a while, and it's definitely a position worth thinking about. I'm going to go ahead and give away the answer. Paul started off this combination with the move Rook e8 check, and this is called a deflection sacrifice. Basically you're deflecting the black king away from the protection of this bishop. Notice in this position the queen was under threat, and if the bishop takes the queen it goes with check, so you really can't allow that. But if you can throw in a check, black has to attend to that first. He's not allowed to take your queen with check. He's got to do something about the check you just placed on him. And if he runs to the square c7, then just rook takes bishop and white is up material. So he takes the rook naturally, and you take the queen. That was the whole point of that deflection sacrifice, was to get the queen, to enable the queen to take that bishop. And it happens to be with check. So there's only one legal move, and so let's go ahead and put that one on the board. And now what's the follow-up? You haven't actually won material yet. You've actually lost the exchange, so you're down in material at this point. But you've discomfited black's king, and your pieces are still very active, and you got rid of the one piece of black's that was threatening to become active. But there is one move here that is clearly the best continuation. Also notice that black, if he's given some time, has this threat of queen to queen to g1 check. I don't know if that's good for a lot here. It could pick up a pawn at least. Yeah, actually it would pick up the bishop too. Check here, and take the bishop. So you can't be too casual with your attack here. You've got to find the precise move. Okay, pause the video and think about it. I'm going to give the answer away now. It's knight takes d5 check, taking advantage of a pin. The queen, when it took the bishop on c8, also pinned this pawn against the queen. So if pawn takes knight, queen takes queen. So that's right out. So the king is in check, and no matter where the king goes, actually, does he have more than one move even? That's covered, that's covered, that's covered, that's covered. Yeah, so the king goes here, and then it's queen c7, checkmate, which is kind of a pretty mate. The queen is covering these squares, and the bishop is covering these squares, and the knight is protecting the queen. Okay, so that's game over. And what you should work on is being able to spot these tactics in a position like this. Okay, it's your move, you've got the active pieces, but your queen is under threat. How do you get out of it? Check with the rook, take the bishop, notice that there's a pin and play knight takes d5 check because the king only had one square, and it's game over. So if you can train yourself to spot tactics like that, you'll win quite a few games. Okay, let's take a look at another one. This is a game between Paul Morphy and James McConnell, also played in 1849. Let's get up to the key point here. Black plays queen b7, and now it's white's turn. Morphy is white once again. And you notice that both sides have active pieces now. The bishops are out, the rook is out. This rook is still in the corner, but so is this one. So piece activity is pretty much the same. The big difference in this one, and the material is the same too. 2 knights versus 2 bishops. Actually a slight advantage to black because the 2 bishops are worth more than a bishop and a knight or two knights. But the big difference here is actually in king safety. If you see white's king over here, even though it's surrounded by black pawns, they look kind of ominous there. There's no actual way for black to break through on these files. The pawns are blocking up those files. If he could get a bishop on this diagonal, then black would be able to put the question to white's king. But white controls that diagonal for now, and the bishop is over here. Or maybe even a queen on that diagonal, but yeah, it's just not happening. So whereas black's king is in the center, and there are these 2 open files leading towards the king, or they would be open if white could just find a way to get those pieces out of there in a hurry. So that's your clue. It's white's turn to move. What's the best move here? And there are some moves that are okay, but there's one move that's clearly best. Okay, pause the video if you want to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away. Well, first I'll talk about one move. It's not best, but you might give yourself partial credit for this one, because queen d3 there attacks a loose rook, and brings the queen out where it might be able to come into maybe f4 and gang up on some weak pawns over here. So that's an idea. It's kind of a slow plan, though, because this rook can be defended. But you get partial credit for noticing a loose rook in the corner. The move that Paul played, much stronger, pause the video if you want to consider it again, is knight f6 check. And that forks the king and the rook. And so the rook is unprotected. If black doesn't want to just go down a piece, he has to take the knight. And then it's pawn takes there with check. And now you see that white has accomplished his objective here. He wanted to open those files onto the black king. And the bishop here can't block the file because the knight's covering that square as well as the rook. So bishop goes there, knight takes, queen takes, rook takes, and it's all over. So king has to move. And now how do you continue? I think this is kind of a 2-stage tactic. The first stage, if you saw that knight f6 opens up these files, you would probably just go ahead and play it because that's good enough. You know this attack has got to be good here. You've gotten rid of the dark squared bishop too, so there's less of a danger on this diagonal for you as well. But what's the follow-up? Pause the video here if you want to think about it. I'm going to give it away. The follow-up is queen to d6 check. Now there's no interposing. Well, he could give up the queen if he interposes, so the king has to run to g8, and then you follow up with the move rook e7. And this has a very specific idea. I mean, generally it's a good idea to get your pieces down on the 7th rank. Good stuff is going to happen. But specifically what he's taking advantage of is this bishop is a little bit loose. When the queen came here with check, it attacked the bishop, and now the only piece defending it is the queen, and you're chasing that queen away. So the queen has to go here to try and defend the bishop, and then you play rook c7 and you win a piece. So that, and you go on to win the game. This is, white's just overwhelming here in his position as well as up material. So nice little tactic, kind of a 2-stage one. Yeah, let's back up again and look at it, see if you can see it all the way through. So after queen b7, it's knight f6 check, taking is forced, take back with check, and you've got the 2 files open. King moves there. Now to continue, you continue with queen d6 check and rook e7 going after the bishop. Okay, let's go on and look at one more. Hold on a second. Yeah, I was getting up to the right position here. So this is a game between Paul Morphy and James McConnell, another one of the New Orleans chess players. And it is black's move here. And this game, Paul has an advantage in development. You see he's got 4 pieces out versus 2 for black. Both kings are a little bit awkward. Black's king is in the center. White's king, though, has lost its castling privileges. And the rooks are still in the corners. And the queens, both queens are active. So the main difference is the fact that these 2 knights have not been developed yet. And they block in the rooks in the corner. So black is behind in development. But with careful play, he's actually not losing at this point. I checked the evaluation, and it gives white a strong advantage, but maybe not a winning advantage. It's just that this one move black makes, c6, is a mistake. And so you're white, and your job here is to figure out why c6 was such a mistake. Paul makes a move, and his opponent resigns here. And okay, maybe the resignation was premature. It starts a tactic. Paul's move starts a tactic that wins material. Okay, pause the video if you want more time to think about it. I'm going to give the answer away now. What Paul played here was knight to e4. And even now, if you hadn't already figured this one out, you might be puzzled about what is so great about the move knight e4. But surely you will notice what squares the knight is hitting from e4. And if you think about it some more, you realize that this square d6 is impossible for white to defend. His rooks are blocked in. The knights are in no position to hit that square. This bishop can't because it's a light squared bishop, and the dark squared bishop is over here. Can't get back to defend that square. So there is no way for black to stop white from playing knight d6. And that was what was bad about the move c6. This was a bad move because it released control of the square d6. And what you should spot in a move, in a case like this, you say, there's a weak square now that I can take advantage of. Why don't I sink a knight there? And you should whip out that move, knight e4, almost without thinking, because well, you always have to stop and calculate, I would say. You never make a move without thinking. You have to make sure it's a safe move. It might not get that it can actually make it to that square safely, and there's no counter tactic. But in this case, it was a safe move, and so he resigned here. If he were to play a move like knight d7, for example, knight here check, king runs, it can go in either direction, and then knight takes f7. And now you see the point. There was no way to stop the knight from coming to f7 because it's protected by the bishop. There's no way to muster defense for that point either. And the rook in the corner is just trapped and can't get out, and the knight is going to take the rook. And this is going to lead to a winning advantage. Sometimes taking the rook in the corner like this is a bit dangerous because you're giving up an active piece for a piece that's not yet participating. But if you look at, even after the knight takes that rook and the knight is effectively out of play, you'll see that Paul still has more, or as many active pieces as his opponent, and he's going to be up in material too. So that was it. That was game over, actually, after just knight e4 was played. So yeah, his opponent resigned in this position. I guess he was a good enough player to notice his game was lost here. He just wasn't good enough to realize that c6 was the move that was going to lose the game. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm going to be back in the next video with continuing this series of tactics from the games of Paul Morphy. See you then. Oh, and leave any comments you have in the section below. Bye.